My name is James Freed, and I drive a 2020 Chevrolet Bolt EV. What I like most about this little car is that I don't have to put gas in it, and I don't have to stop at a gas station. And when I see the prices fluctuating, during the pandemic up to almost $7 a gallon, it makes me feel really good that I'm not contributing to putting more carbon in the atmosphere.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to the last of this current Carbon Conversation series, Drive Electric. Thanks for all the car owners that came and shared. And awesome. So brief introduction. Who hasn't been to the Grange? First timers. Welcome, welcome. Several of us are Grange members, and I want to encourage you to come back. There's other activities and events here that check out. So I would go to sebastopolgrange.org to learn more about those. My name is Tor Allen. I run a nonprofit called the Robbins Institute, and we started doing these carbon conversations 2019, a little bit of 2020, and then something happened that derailed a lot of things. But we started these up again in earlier this in February. And basically what we're trying to do is look at various climate solutions and then just find ways that we each can take a role and help shape a better future. So that's the background there. Just if you want to look up some of the previous topics that were presented, it's a simple URL, robus.org/SCC. And also, I'll just make a note that I do share out the presentation. If you RSVP with an email, you'll get that. You can take notes if you want, but you also get the presentation with these links and numbers. So I want to thank our sponsors for this evening. We've got Sonoma Clean Power. Grant and Scott are going to share a little bit in a bit. And the North Bay Electric Auto Association, Sonoma Cecilia, and then Sonoma County Board of Supervisors helped support this evening. Okay, so I just wanted to point out Project Drawdown, which is an organization that analyzed the top 100 solutions to reversing global warming back in 2016, 2017. They produced a book, and it's still an active organization. When I learned of it, it's pretty impressive that you just have this incredible menu of solutions that help either reduce emissions or sequester emissions. And it's they've done a lot of analysis. It's a great reference. We have some of the posters leaning up against the wall over there of the different transportation-related solutions. And I encourage you to look at it. It's online, drawdown.org. I use it a lot. Hello, yeah. Some of the other resources we have are Reva's always an inspiration, and then we had a Mary DeMacher book on Parents' Guide to Climate Risk. Oh, it's battery. Yeah, there we go.
Do you have a backup battery?
Oh, and at this moment, Dina's going to ask about.
Oh, I'm the bad cop. If you would like to make a donation about the story.
Do you have a backup battery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me take care of that.
So, yeah. Okay. So one of the reasons I'm playing with the mic is that we're recording this session also, the audio and the video on via a Zoom recording. So that's how the audio gets picked up. So this is a page from Drawdown that talks about electric vehicles. It talks about this is a worldwide analysis of if we actually converted and adopted electric vehicles worldwide at a massive scale. I won't try to explain all the gigatons and billions and all that stuff, but this is the kind of, there's another layer of analysis behind this as well. So I'm just pointing out, I guess, why we're talking about electric transportation. And there's some of these other related solutions, including walkable cities. What's that all about? So a couple stats I wanted to share with you was, particularly here in Sonoma County, over 50% of our greenhouse gas emissions are transportation related, and electrification is identified as a key strategy for reducing those emissions. And then another two little tidbits of information was that California set a goal back when Jerry Brown was governor. The second time, yeah. 1.5 million electric vehicles sold by 2025, and we just passed that threshold a few months ago. So there's a lot of EVs on the road. And I will say that this is another little tidbit about last year, two top selling passenger vehicles in California were the Tesla Y and the Model 3. At 87,000 units and almost 80,000 units of the Model 3. So that I didn't put trucks and all that other stuff. The passenger vehicles are selling quite a bit. Okay, so tonight, this is what we're gonna do. I give you a brief little introduction, and then I'm gonna turn it over to my daughter Jannike, who purchased a used electric car a few years ago, and she's going to share a little story about life in a used electric car. And then Brant and Scott will share a little bit about some projects and programs from Sonoma Clean Power. And then I'll come back and share about incentives, some lessons from Norway. Norway's the country with the most electric cars per capita in the world right now. I have some friends and family there, so we'll share some insight from them. And then we'll wrap up with questions and answers and things you might want to have, wherever you want to take it next. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jannike to share her story.
Hi, I'm Jannike, and I was asked to share a little bit just to provide a window into what it's been like having an electric car. So I've had one for 3 years. I have a Tesla Model S from 2013, so it's about 10 years old. And originally I bought it because, you know, the way the world's kind of set up, if you're going to work, you need a car. And I shared it with another person for about a year. That was a way to kind of reduce costs. Also buying used reduce costs, and there's less strain on new resources. And we just heard some statistics about Teslas that have been selling new, but there's a lot of now slightly older ones out there. And personally, I like my old one. It has a bigger front than some of the newer ones, so old can be better. I know 10 years is not old by some standards, but I'll just get into a little bit about what it looks like having this car in my life. So typically it involves charging at home. We do have rooftop solar, so that is really nice for having clean energy, because of course one consideration with electric vehicles is the question of, well, where is that energy coming from? Like, is it really clean? We know that the car isn't polluting driving around our cities, but that is another consideration, and avoiding more pollution was one of the reasons why I wanted to get an EV. I did have the privilege of using some inheritance from my grandparents, which is, you know, obviously a privilege, and I, you know, wanted to avoid polluting and, you know, buying more fossil fuels and stuff. This particular car was a good fit for me because I work in a lot of different areas. It's different terrain. It's helpful to have adjustable suspension. I think nowadays some of the newer cars have, or they tend to have all-wheel drive, and I don't have that, which is maybe, you know, a drawback. But typical use is just kind of maybe going to work, going to other things, just general life like you would use any car. And then it's also really good for hitting the road. So one of the considerations I had when picking an electric vehicle was that I wanted it to have over 200-mile range. That's just kind of a good threshold. And if you have that much, there's not too many restrictions on what you can do. If you have a smaller range, you know, maybe that fits your lifestyle if you're really just doing stuff locally. But I knew I needed to be able to travel in the car as well. So at this point, the most streamlined charging network is available for Teslas only, although apparently it's going to expand and include some other vehicle types, which is great. Right now, it's really not an issue to be able to charge, and the car screen is programmed to suggest charging routes and how long to charge at each stop. So I took a photo of the screen for an example of if I were to drive to Portland, which I've done, and it suggests a bunch of charging stops. Me personally, I find it's good to have a reason to stop and stretch and eat and go to the bathroom anyways, so I don't think it's really a drawback to have to charge. And it's very convenient that this sort of optimized suggestion will be created, because the middle part of the battery range charges quicker than the if you're charging all the way full. So it's quicker to just charge part of the way and then keep driving and so on. So it's been good to be able to travel, lots of camping, and you know, whether for work or for fun. I've had a job that I needed to drive to the foothills every month or so, and it was useful to be able to camp. So the car, this particular car being a Model S, it's long enough for people my height to be able to sleep in the back with the seats down. So that was definitely a consideration when picking it, especially getting this in sort of early COVID times when, you know, to go anywhere, it kind of meant not just staying with friends, because, you know, we weren't going inside with people. So be able to sleep in the back for visits or for work trips has been really useful. And then something that kind of makes it possible to travel wherever is the fact that if you get adapters and a portable charger to go with your electric vehicle, you can charge at a RV campsite hookup. So I've done that a lot of times. And here's a little view into sort of the extended version of that, which I consider to be electric camping. Again, for those work trips, I often went to this RV park and just brought some electric appliances because it was quicker to make food that way, because the RV hookup also has a 110. So I would charge a 110 volt plug. And so I would charge the car on this place at a 30 amp and then use the 110 volt plug to, you know, run a electric wok or a water kettle, whatever. And as I mentioned before, the front trunk has a lot of space in this particular year of the car, and so my ice chest goes in the front, so it's kind of like the kitchen up there. So, you know, of course, the consideration of picking a car is the price. It's like any used car, you know, it's gonna vary based on the mileage, how old it is. Of course, used cars are cheaper than new cars. I just put, you know, an example online of some cars that are for sale in Nevada right now. And then, you know, there's this kind of question of, did the previous owners take good care of the battery? Which I didn't really know. I just, you know, took a chance because I went through a used car dealer, so they didn't know what the people had been doing. But some cars, I think more and more electric vehicles are making it easier to, as the owner, take good care of the battery. So what that usually means is in your day-to-day use, you don't really want to be charging it to 100%, maybe to 80, 90%, so that the battery life is healthy longer. So maybe there's a way to get the battery assessed before you buy a car. That might be something to consider. Some potential issues people think about is, you know, it's a used car, there are maintenance issues. I have found that there have been some things I've had to have fixed, like a door handle and stuff like that. But there's not a ton of regular maintenance required in electric vehicles. So that can be a plus for a lot of people. Another concern, you know, in this era where we have so many wildfires is, oh, having an electric car, what if there's a power outage and you need to evacuate? Well, I've definitely experienced this issue, and if you're just kind of paying attention and keep your car charged, you know, you're not gonna get stranded. I mean, like I had to evacuate for the Dixie fire. These photos are from a fire in Oregon. Like, it's really dark, but that's daytime. So yeah, just kind of having a portable charger, having adapters, charging your car if there might be a power outage. Like, you know, there's ways to work around the issues. And your battery can be a resource during power outages for other needs, like recharging your electronics. You do have your car charged. And these are just some photos of places I've gone. Obviously, I really like to go to nature places. So I just put some up there, and I'll open it up if anyone has questions. Yeah.
Is it cost to charge?
Yeah, so the question was, does it cost to charge? Yeah, there is a cost. It varies depending on the charger. It's cheapest to charge at home, right? Because that's just your normal price of electricity, which is lower than at, say, a supercharger or some other public charger that might charge at a slower speed. But it's generally per unit of energy. Like, that's kind of the nicest, not the how long you charge. So
I actually didn't say that quite right. I'm assuming it's different for different kinds of chargers. Are the Tesla chargers cheaper than other ones?
Okay, so the question has to do with, does it vary what different kinds of chargers, and if Tesla chargers are cheaper than others? I think they might be comparable, but it depends on the site. Some places even have different prices during peak hours and off-peak hours. So I think on the more expensive end, it might be like 46 cents a kilowatt hour. There used to be places that were down at like 23 cents a kilowatt hour, but that's not so common now. So that's per unit of energy. So I don't have the exact conversion of like how many miles that's going to get you. But the more recent version of the Tesla app has been telling me like, oh, you're saving this much money compared to if this was gas. Like it can be calculated, it's cheaper than gas. Yeah.
Let's say you're on the trip, charge your car. Because you completed it fairly. How much does that cost you to charge up on the trip? When you store it.
How much does one charge cost? Maybe like $15 on a trip, because I'm not going all the way down to depleted. I'm not going all the way up to 100%. So, yeah.
Your cost is per month.
My cost per mile.
Yeah, because gas, you buy a gallon of gas and you're like, oh, this is how many miles I get. So you can easily do the equation and say, hey, it costs me this much to drive a mile. Is there a ballpark you can give us on what it costs you to drive a mile?
I haven't calculated what it costs to drive per mile. Do you in the back have an idea?
Yes, since that last year, like November, but
Maybe you could just.
It's a great question. So, like, what's the equivalent, compared if you're familiar with gas? We did this math in November of last year, maybe a few things have changed, but if you charge at home, it's like maybe equivalent to $1.50 per gallon of gas. If you're charging on the road, using fast chargers, and yeah, the rate, is very different. It's probably a little more similar to gas in terms of the cost. That's quick answer.
And I've estimated on road trips, on far trips, what we spent paying at chargers turned out to be half of what we would have spent on gas.
That's not, thank you. That's.
depending upon how many miles per gallon we get.
On that other question about how many miles per kilowatt hour, it's really about 3 to 6 miles depending on the size of the vehicle and how big it is.
Great, thanks for that insight.
Repeat that.
Yeah, so the amount of miles you get per kilowatt hour is around 3 to 6 miles, depending on the size of the vehicle and whatnot.
Math problem.
I know you said you shouldn't charge the battery all the way 100%, so you make it last longer instead of the battery after that. So I'm wondering, what's the longest you've driven your car on one charge?
Well, that's not usually how I drive it, so I don't know exactly what the longest I've driven on one charge is. I will charge it all the way at home before going on a trip, but I don't like to get my range too low, maybe charge or bump down to 30, so I don't know, it might be around 200 miles, but yeah.
So I was thinking about maybe one advantage of a Tesla might be that they have no chargers. I'm thinking about how many charging stations there are, and I'm also thinking about the charging stations vary as well as site costs vary with different kinds of chargers. Like Tesla one, is it more expensive or less expensive than a different kind of charger?
Yeah, I think Jannike said the Tesla chargers have their pricing scheme, and then the non-Tesla fast chargers, the pricing is pretty comparable for the fast chargers. So, one last question.
I know that some Ford trucks advertise using them themselves, using the truck as a battery for other things. You imply Tesla through that as well, as you're a port that you can plug something like an electric utility into the like that walk, the electric walk of yours, you power it off of your car.
No, I don't power that off of the car directly. It has normal plugs like USB and cigarette lighter. There isn't a 110 volt. I don't know if the newer ones have it. That walk was just at the RV site. The electric hookup there had a 110 volt plug. But I think more cars are starting to have, 110 volt plugs and also ability to send power back into your house and things like that. That's kind of the direction things are going.
Awesome.
Yes.
Jannike is not going anywhere in case we had one question. Thank you. Okay, just a little segue to Sonoma Clean Power. I just want to, 2020, Cecilia and I did a little presentation on road trips in EVs, and I just wanted to give you just a one slide. So if you want to see that story, it's recorded, it's on our archives. Cecilia drove all the way around the US, and I just shared some stories about driving to Portland and back. But just a little synopsis of the past 5 years. I would say that we charge over 90% of our charging is at home. So just drive in and plug in. Really convenient. It's with what we call a level 2 charger, which is 220 volt. And that means that it can fully charge in overnight, basically. 6 to 8 hours, typically. The Volt has a 250 mile range, so that gives you an idea. We've gotten comfortable taking long road trips. There's a lot of fast chargers out there. There's some issues with them now, but it's fine. We don't hesitate to go for a road trip. 3 years ago, I was using something called PlugShare, which is an app that I still advocate. It's the kind of universal app that shows you where all the chargers are, the different speeds and types, etc. And I still advocate using that. It's not as elegant as what Jannike showed that Tesla goes, I want to go to Portland. It tells you where to stop. A little more effort. And the DCFC, that's a DC fast charger acronym. I say there's a lot more of those than when we started driving road trips 5 years ago. There's also a lot more EVs on the road competing, so that's another story. But and then right now we're sort of wondering what we do after in January because we've been leasing it, and we have to turn it in or buy it. But we love driving electric, and there's no desire to go back to what we call ICE, which is internal code for internal combustion engines. So that's my 2 cents on our personal experience driving electric. And I'm going to turn it over to invite Grant and Scott, or just Grant, come up and share some Sonoma Clean Power offers and incentives.
All right, so I'll go first and then I'll hand it over to Scott Lawrence, who's with me. Hi, my name is Brent Arthur. I work on the Sonoma Clean Power team. Sonoma Clean Power is the public power provider for the majority of Sonoma and Mendocino counties. I work on the programs team, which means that I work on ways that we can help our customers, many of you are in the room, to be able to use renewable power for everything in your life. And I focus on transportation. I get really excited about electric transportation. I might start talking fast, and I'll try to slow down if that happens. We're going to talk about EVs today. We have been talking about EVs, and I love some of the content here. I just want to, talking about drawdown, and just put a note out there that there are even more efficient ways to provide, to get where you need to go with electricity. I think e-bikes, for example, are the most efficient machine that humans have ever invented. And that's great. And they also cost a lot less. Rode mine today. But for a lot of people, we drive big distances and live out, in the wild nature, and cars make sense. So I'm just going to talk about some of the programs and incentives that we offer at Sonoma Clean Power. And we're always looking for new ideas. So if you have questions or want to suggest something to me today, would love to hear it. Okay, let's see if this works. All right, I'm going to talk first about a project that we have been working on with the California Energy Commission. It's called the Sonoma Coast Incentive Project. And this is getting at public charging that we've been talking about today. So we have some incentives available right now. We launched this in 2020, summer 2020, and we're actually going to be closing it up for new applications at the end of this month. But we offer rebates up to $5,000 for level 2, and that's kind of like the long-term dwell time at the home or business. And then up to $80,000 per charger for those faster chargers, the DC fast chargers. And this is a site down in Petaluma at a workplace in Petaluma. And so, yeah, this is a partnership with the California Energy Commission and the Northern Sonoma County Air Pollution Control District. So far, we have 5 DC fast chargers and about 63 those level 2s. This one here is just down the road in Sebastopol, at Fairfield Inn. And we have a bunch more that are in the pipeline to be installed this year and next year. So, yeah, hopefully that will provide a boost for public charging options in Sonoma and Mendocino County. Happy to talk about this more if you have questions. And yeah, as I said, we do need to actually cut off the application date so we can just focus on the chargers that are in queue, and we're going to be doing that at the end of this month.
Will that be renewed later?
So I'll just say generally the way that incentives are going that I've seen is that they are going to get less and less generous over time. So there are other programs that are coming out. There's one called the Golden State Opportunity, it's a DC fast charger program that's kind of a successor to this. This one covers up to 75% of the total project cost for a DC fast charger. The successor one covers 50% of the cost, so it's just a little bit less generous.
That's about $100,000 from fast charging.
Yeah, so this would be up to $80,000 or 75%, whichever's less. But yeah, the costs that we're seeing it's between $100,000 to $120,000 to install a fast charger for all the costs that are involved. So not cheap. We also have a great nonprofit program. So for nonprofits in Sonoma and Mendocino County, we offer up to $15,000 for a passenger vehicle or $22,500 for basically, like a van or a pickup truck that has a payload. And this is from organization face to face that they provide service for people living with HIV in Sonoma County, and they updated this Ford e-Transit to be able to provide service for their clients. So they're super excited to be able to do that with this rebate. Okay, I want to talk about electricity for a second here. Electricity has different properties at different times of the day. For example, in the middle of the day, we have a lot of solar power. You know, it's very abundant and portable. And then, you know, at the end of the day, everybody comes home, they turn on everything in the house, maybe they're running their air conditioning more, and there's less capacity on the grid to charge things. So I'm going to talk a little bit about programs that we have to encourage people to charge their vehicles at the best times of the day. And then Scott, our customer service expert, is going to talk a little bit about rates. So to get to that question about, hey, how do you save money by charging at home? Okay, apologies for the formatting here. It did not look like that when I sent this to Florida. But yeah, we provide a charger. If you own your home or you're able to install a charger at home, we will provide a charger for almost free. So the way it's almost free is you get 50% off the cost of a charger, which is typically around $600 to $700. And then when you connect that at home and sign up for our Grid Savvy program, which basically when there's a really hot day, you're stressing the grid, and if you can pause the charging of your car in order to prevent a blackout, then that's part of this program, and we will give you $5 a month for being part of that program. But then, anyway, 50% off, then we give you $250 rebate once you have your charger at home. We also have a Grid Savvy Rewards program. So this is, you don't need a smart charger or any special devices in your house. We just look, if you sign up for this, we will compare your electricity usage on an average day, and then when there's a flex alert or a need statewide and you're able to reduce your power, then we will track that and compensate you for that. And this is more details on that Grid Savvy Rewards program. And you can get a check at the end of the season, or you can donate to a nonprofit. I think one of them was the Climate Center. I've seen some people with the Climate Center Fest today, so we're able to donate to 3 nonprofits because of this program. All right, with that, I am allergic to talking about rates, so I'm going to hand it over to Scott Lawrence to tell you more about how you can save with an EV.
Thank you. So we'll keep going and get in the ranch here. Well, my job at Sonoma Power is in customer service, and what I do for you and our other customers is help you pay the least amount for the electricity you use, and some of that is in your usage, and some of it's in rate structure. So you've got an EV and you're not buying gas anymore, no gasoline, or you're thinking about getting an EV and you'll no longer be buying gas. And one of the things I discovered in the first week of having an EV is I'm never going to have an oil change again. And I could just hear my dad's voice in the back of my head, like, make sure you're checking your oil. Get your oil change on something that I don't have an oil change, so that's a cost I don't have to worry about anymore, or the mess of it. I'm going to show you a couple charts of rates structure, just so you have kind of the background of what you're going to do once you have your IV, your EV, not your IV, but your EV, and you may be on these rates now, or you may be on an EV rate. Most Sebastopolians who have an EV are in an EV rate, and I'll show you what that looks like. So this is just going to be a general background, just take a picture of it. When you go home, you want to check your PG&E bill and see what rate you're on. And you may want to make a change, or when you get your EV, you're going to be remembering, I want to get that EV rate, so I'm paying the least amount. This is a rate structure that you're seeing here that has tiers, and half of the consumers in Sonoma County and Sebastopol that don't have EVs, that don't have solar power on their home, they're on this rate. You may be in that class. And this basically says that for that tier 1 usage, that's a block of usage, it's less expensive than if you get into tier 2. So PG&E basically had set up this rate with the California Public Utilities Commission and said, great, you know, you live in this part of the world and you have gas for heating, or you do all electric, you're going to be able to have so much in that first block. But once you exceed that first block in a month, you're going to go into a higher price. So you think that if you get an EV, you're going to start using a lot more energy. You're going to charge it at home off of the Sonoma power charger that you got. So you might start getting into that second, third tier. There's even a fourth tier, and start paying the most. So there's some ways around that. And that is to get into this rate that's called ETOUC. It's basically pre-pricing between 4 and 9. This is an incentive rate that if you look at how this is structured from midnight through noon to midnight, that if you avoid that 4 to 9 p.m., you're paying a less cost, probably about half. So if you're doing anything in your home, you're charging your EV, or you're washing clothes, or you're doing the dishes. If you stay out of that 4 to 9 window, you pay the least amount. Now, you can't avoid everything, unless you can live a lifestyle like that. But if you can push as much energy away from that 4 to 9 afternoon period every day of the week, even holidays, Saturdays and Sundays, you're going to pay a lower bill for your PG&E. So you can charge your car here and these lower peak hours. Off-peak is what it's called. There's a little bit of nuance with how PG&E had set that rate up, which has to do with the baseline, but you most likely won't have to worry about it. This is turning out to be a longer rate than I thought. But once you get your EV, you can elect to go into EV rate. So you actually have to have your registered car to your name, and you just basically tell PG&E, I now have an EV, and they get the details of that. Sonoma Clean Power is still generating the power and delivering that to you as a Sonoma Clean Power customer. But again, from this midnight to midnight range, if you can really avoid that 4 to 9 p.m. and even afterwards, charge it during the early morning hours, or charge it when that solar power is coming up around 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. You're going to pay the least amount. And there's a cost comparison. And I pulled this up just this morning. I grabbed at random somebody in Sebastopol and looked at their usage hour by hour, 365 days through all of 2022. And then threw this comparison together. This was the actual usage of this home. They have an EV on an EV rate. So they're paying this least amount for everything in their home. So when you're on an EV rate, it's not just electricity that's charging your EV that you're paying for. Of course, you have to buy electricity for everything you do. So your annual cost of electricity for this home, which used $8,760, which is about right for a regular average home that has one EV, that they're almost about $2,000 a year, or on average $166 a month. You can still charge your EV and be on the ETOUC. It's a little more expensive. And if you stay on that E1, it's still a little, because you're using more in that second and third tier bucket. So thanks for bearing with me with details like that. Is there another slide? Oh yeah. Power sources. You're thinking about, well, great, where did this power come from? I heard that, you're not going to have solar power generating electricity every 24/7. What we do at Sonoma Clean Power is buy the least cost power to deliver to the grid that goes to your house or to your business. And we purchase long-term contracts And we try to get it as clean as possible at the lowest possible price. And we're cheaper than PG&E. This is a little bit difficult to see, but I will just basically inform you that if you're on the basic package with Sonoma Clean Power, it's called Clean Start. There's a lot of large hydro that's purple. There's wind, there's solar, and there's geothermal. There's biomass. There's power that we're required to buy. As directed by the state of California. It says you got a little bit of nuclear in there and a little bit of system power. Now, our board of directors, which are your local elected officials, they decided that Sonoma Clean Power wasn't going to buy nuclear power and made a resolution. But this had to be forced upon us to be able to do that. So yeah, you got some nuclear in there, you got a little bit of gas. So you're charging your car when you're on Clean Start. You could be charging some of your ions in your battery through gas power. And the way to eliminate that completely is to get into the Sonoma Clean Power Evergreen, which is a premium service we provide. We developed that with essentially geothermal, the geysers, and local solar. And the design of this program is unique in the United States. There's no other county that has the opportunity that we do here to be able to get local geyser, geothermal power, and local solar that we've helped develop. So our customers that are in Evergreen, it's about 2% of everyone within the county. They're on Evergreen, they pay about a 2.5 cent premium, but when they have an EV and they're charging their home and everything in it in their EV, they're charging with local, completely 100% renewable power. So that's an option for you. So how much does that cost? Based on calculations that I did with what an average driver might do in Sonoma County, how many miles they would drive, it would probably cost them about $77 a year to be an Evergreen customer to charge their car. So on average, it's probably about like $13 a month for your house, but if you have a car in there, it adds another about $6 or $7. So you can have the luxury and the joy of driving your EV, charging it at home, and knowing that it's 100% renewable power that's driving the ground. So with that, I'm going to give it back to our MC.
All right, thanks, Brant and Scott. Oh, that's it. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so I wanted to start. You know, affordability is a theme here, and so I just want to point out that here in Sebastopol, we do have this all-electric bus, Route 24, that goes around town. It's free, pretty affordable. It goes somewhere you want it to go. So just to point this out, it's just affordability. You know, ride the bus, consider buying used TVs, walk, bike, electric lift. I'll get into some of that, and I'll share some of the leasing and financing topics. But I did reach out and ask, how's the free of the electric bus doing? And since December 2015. It had a few initial issues with, I guess, one of the doors not closing well, but it's been fine. It was the first electric bus in Sonoma County. There's 6 total currently. They're mostly around town circulator shuttles in Windsor and other places. And this is Sonoma County Transit. It's adding 3 more by the end of the summer, about 130 to 150 mile range. The drivers have sort of gotten used to driving, extending the range by how they drive. And then you can see some of these other things. You can look these up. But it seems to be working fine. So I want to get into incentives. And there's 2 calculators or websites that help sort through a lot of these incentives. And many of them are scalable based on income. Some of the other incentives are based on where the car is made and so on. So it's got a little more complicated. Sort through all this, and Again, I'm going to share these slides with you, but if you go to plugstar.com, what they'll do is tell you all the incentives that are available in our area. And then in a minute, I'll show you another calculator that also helps you navigate all these incentives. So I went to plugstar.com, typed in our zip code, and what comes up first is the federal tax credits. And so that's the first one. It's hard to read, I understand that, but it's up to $7,500 for if you lease or buy a new qualified plug-in electric vehicle. And the tax credit is something you have to utilize in the year you bought the car. So you can't carry over any unused amounts. That's one of the, I think, unfair elements of it. If you don't have that tax liability, then you can't fully take advantage of it. Then there's a suite of different ones available. The California Clean Vehicle Rebate, which offers between $1,000 and $7,500. That's a rebate, and that's for new cars, purchase or lease. There's one in there, the Vehicle Assistance Program, which also has affordable financing or finance it instead of leasing. See, where's the other one? Bay Area Clean Cars for All. It provides incentives to lower income California drivers to scrap their older, high polluting car and replace it with a zero or near zero emission vehicle. You can get up to $2,000 for what's a home EVSE, that stands for electric vehicle supply equipment. It's a charger, basically. And the electric, hiring the electrician to put it in. So there's incentives for both the charger and the vehicle. I don't expect you to retain all this right now. I'm just kind of breezing through, but I'll show you how it comes together in a second. These are some more charging station incentives, including Sonoma Clean Power's Grid Savvy offer that was just shared. And then the electric rates that Scott was talking about, Sonoma Clean Power, he has a rate as well. And then there's some what's called driving perks. So you can qualify for a sticker to drive in the diamond lane, the high occupancy vehicle lanes, even if it's just you. So how about that? All right. So the other calculator that I utilize is this one that PG&E has on their website, pge.com/vehicles. And you can go in there and get a sense of, what's available, what kind of vehicles. You can sort and say the pre-owned, used, or new, what's mile range that you want, etc. So these are just some screenshots that I took and put here for illustration. But where you want to do your homework is going to this website and sorting it out. So you'll sort out the various incentives that would apply to you and the vehicle. So I just sorted for used vehicles, and I went cheapest to more expensive. So these were the 6 cheapest used ones. And each one, you click on it further, but this is just, they're taking data, scanning the market, sort of getting some averages to see what prices are available out there. And so it shows what the price would, estimated cost for this Mitsubishi is $6,500, and after incentives, it's a little over $1,000. So if you click on that, if it's live, you can drill down and see what that means and which incentive you have to apply for. I will say also that dealers don't always know about all these incentive programs. So you have to it's almost like you need a class to take advantage of all this money. So here's a couple of the screenshots. Say I want to go look at the used Nissan Leaf. Tells you all these details, what are the range, how far it can go, you know, gallons of gas saved, et cetera, 1 year, and what's the estimated price. And then it gets into some of these, the tax credits, or not the tax credits, the total incentives that are available for the buying a used Leaf. So I'm scanning through this because I want to show you an example. Yeah, this vehicle retirement thing, you can get up to $1,500 to turn in an old car, which is also always heartbreaking. So the one on the left that most people didn't know that, so you can qualify for a rebate from PG&E program. You get $1,000, anyone, and up to $4,000 if you income qualified. And you can purchase it from a private party or a dealer. There's another incentive program that you have to purchase, or the tax credit's only available if you purchase it through a dealer. Makes your head spin a little bit. But so these are all there, and it also the calculator also runs a little comparison of if you compare it to an equivalent sized gas vehicle, how much you'd be saving lifetime versus the other car in gas and incentives, etc. So the maintenance and all that. And this gives a little chart of the cumulative lifetime costs of a Nissan Leaf compared to a Nissan Rogue in this case. The calculator is kind of interesting to work with. I will show you an example here from Maryland, who recently bought a used EV, and I've been helping her fill out the application for the PG&E rebate. She qualifies for the $4,000. She still hasn't turned in her truck, trusty old truck, because, well, you know, it still runs. And one thing about this, there's no tax credit for this because it wasn't through a dealership. And then right now she's using the 110 portable charger that came with the car, just plugging it into any 110 outlet at her home, as opposed to needing to wire a 2.0 volt, you know, charger, and purchase a new charger. So that's Maryland's story, using some of these, buying a used EV and using some of the rebates. Sorry, Marilyn, you shared this to me. Yeah, she's trying to see if it works as a truck. I think so. I don't know. I can do a lot. All right. So one observation with all these incentives is that they call it non-refundable, a tax credit, if you only can take advantage of it in the year that you bought it. When we put solar on our home 10 years ago, the tax credit, if we didn't utilize it all the first year, we could roll over the remaining credits for the following year. I think it's called refundable. If we're talking about equity, I don't know why they made the tax credits non-refundable. So, hallelujah. All right. Good deal. So that will change next year. All right. So just a brief snapshot. This is a little screenshot from the PlugShare app that shows the public chargers in Sebastopol. And you see the yellow one up by Lucky's. That's the only DC fast charger. A couple of EVgo products. And the green ones are charge points. They're level 2. They're at the theater, over by the Vets building, and at CES. And now there's a few down at the Fairfield Inn. There's a couple of the O'Reilly Media, and there's 4 put in by Barlow Crossings, which is near the Bike Center. I don't know how public they are though. And then there's a few fast chargers being planned. No detail. Here. Okay. So one other thing about talking about affordability is, as opposed to knowing what the asking price of these cars is, what can my monthly payment be? So we've been leasing our Bolt for the whole time we've had it. And it's a little more palatable. This website, Brand shared with me, keeps track of leasing data from around the country. And this is just a screenshot that was a little highlight of some more recent, the dealers change their leasing rate options pretty frequently, actually. So, it's good. This website's a really good place to get a handle on, what's available and what's their monthly rate. So typically, at least you have to put some money down. The rate that you walk away with is dependent on your credit scores and some other factors. Typically, it's 3 years, 36 months. And you have to tell them how many miles a year you're going to drive. So that goes into the calculation. And you just tell them, do you want to buy it out at the end, do you think? Or just minimize your monthly payment? So those are all little dials that the dealer that'll work to get you a monthly rate. But it's worked for us, and it's allowed us to try out an electric car without writing a big check. Although I will say that the lease rates have generally gone up over the last few years. And then not to overlook that you can get a loan. This is the credit union, they knock off a few bits off the rates, the percentage rate for calculating a monthly payment. So for electric cars specifically, or hybrid, community first, so check if you have a credit union or bank, ask them if they have a special rate. I don't know why I threw this in there, a little visual on, $250 a month payment for $10,000. So, one of the other things we learned was always shop around, whether you're leasing or buying, particularly for new vehicle. You'd think that all the Chevy dealers would offer the same prices. They don't. So we found a really sweetheart deal down in Nevada last time. We asked around. So whatever the dealer is, just check with multiple dealers. I'll say it's annoying, but we'll save you some money. Okay. Vehicle to grid. I'm going to play this real quick.
Over 25,000 electric vehicles are on the road in the PG&E service area. And we're aiming for 3 million by 2030. Since transportation makes up about 40% of California's emissions, replacing fossil fuel vehicles does a lot to clean up the air. But that's just the beginning. With new bidirectional charging technology, we can leave outages, in the dark ages, because EVs will be able to provide backup power to our homes. During times of high electricity demand, customers will also be able to use their EVs to sell clean electricity back to the grid. In fact, there are already enough EVs on the road to power the city of Oakland for over 3 days. Not only will we continue to reduce our reliance on dirtier sources of energy, but we'll put money back in our customers' pockets too. A future with fresher air, clean and reliable backup power, and savings for PG&E customers is on its way. And electric vehicles can take us there. Imagine a future where all vehicles are clean electric vehicles and can make our power grid more reliable, save customers money, and help the environment. It's just down the road. PG&E is working with industry leaders like BMW, Ford, and GM to set the stage for bidirectional charging so that EV batteries can be used to make power outages a thing of the past. Here's how it works. Every EV has a battery, and the energy it stores can be returned to the grid at critical moments. EV chargers can use an inverter to convert direct current from your car battery into alternating current that feeds your home and the greater grid. This system can be configured to either power your whole property or only essential items during a power outage. Smart energy management software can automatically reserve a portion of your battery's charge so that you always have enough for your transportation needs. Bidirectional charging will turn EVs into a clean, reliable, and affordable backup for all of us. And PG&E is accelerating California's EV future.
Okay, so just a little background. This is a slide I put up 3 years ago, so it's probably more homes. Japan sort of took a lead on this idea where a vehicle can charge the home and grid some years ago with a lot of Nissan Leafs, basically. But let's see what's going on here. So PG&E started this pilot program last year. And I checked in with their program manager just a week ago, and just not a ton has happened. But so the first residential system is being installed this summer, and the Ford Lightning truck that was out here is part of that. Ford has a home energy management system, and then Sunrun is the installer. So that's still to come. It's not in full vehicle, like the power goes out to the grid, but it'll be able to power the house. So yeah, not fully achieving it again yet. The rate schedules that dictate how much credit you can get by sending power out to the grid or otherwise, I believe are in place. I understood that. But basically they're waiting for more vehicles, and also the bidirectional chargers should be made available so that this can really step up. And then they're offering these incentives that amount to almost $5,000 for installing the right hardware and participating. I said start the application if you're interested. I've been interested for 10 years, so I'm not sure why I would do it at this point, but I'm still monitoring it. It's a really exciting idea that we roll around with these big batteries that we can also do some of this extra with. Here's a little visual of the Ford situation. Also, right now in the state legislature, the Climate Center is pushing this. It's a bill that will require all new vehicles after 2025, to have bi-directional capabilities. Right now, the vehicle manufacturers are only putting it in if they feel like it. So sometimes legislation is needed, and I'll share the link with this in the follow-up. You want the representative to call, push it along. Good idea. Okay, so I want to take a little few minutes to share about what's going on in Norway. This was an article that was in the Press Democrat about a month or so ago. I just want to show you my credentials for why I have the authority to talk about this. I have this driver's license I got in 1989, and it's good until 2064. So I don't understand this, but it was 2 years I lived in Norway, and I still have the card. I think it's still good. I think it's still good. Anyway, moving on. So let's see. Couple of amazing things. All new cars, this is legislation, all new cars sold by 2025 shall be zero emission. That's electric or hydrogen. That's a Norwegian law. And then in 2022, 80% of all new car sales were electric. So they're going like gangbusters there. Initially, it was, all cars imported into Norway was really high tax. But EVs were exempt from the tax. So that was an attractive reason to get an EV. And now they're changed the tax incentive, so they're favoring lower cost vehicles. And then also you get some other benefits with lower tolls and running on the ferry and things like that. But the article also pointed out that they're also trying to get fewer cars on the road. So that's not just swapping gas for electric, but fewer cars. So that's something to keep in mind also here as we do this. I reached out to a couple cousins and friends, and this is a cousin Lena who got her first EV last year, and I just said most of the time they charge at home or they have cabin culture, so have a charger there too. And what she liked most about it was not spewing emissions. And it's a one-car family. They figure out other ways to get around. There's a friend I met when I went to school there when I was 11, and he also charges mostly at home. I was asking about their mix of fast chargers. It's also kind of messy because they have a lot of different brands and you have to have different apps and cars, but it's moving towards a single card kind of thing. That's some reasons he likes going electric. It's fun to drive, environmental benefits, no gas, and even cheaper parking. So we took a little trip there last fall, and I think half the pictures I took were of EVs. Are you done? Take all these pictures. A little obsessive, but some kind of cool ones. And this post office, well, this is in Bergen. Tiny little, there was a regular size post, van also, but this one was kind of cute. And then that's an electric truck, just delivery, kind of mid-sized delivery truck. And then this one down at the lower, it's a Toyota, but it's kind of like a mini cargo van. And Ford has those, and others have those. I'm fascinated by that smaller size cargo van. So they still have challenges. So in the cities where you don't have your own off-street parking, you have to park on the street, and apartments, it's still a challenge to find a charging port on the street. They're working on that. The fast charger network is a little more developed in here, but it's still, 6 or 7 different brands. You have to have an app for each one, which is kind of annoying. So, but one thing I did see that I really, really appeal with is most electric cars have like a little towing your trailer to take things to the dump or whatever, or towing your boat, or towing a little camper. It allows you to have one car that can do multiple things. So I like that feature. For some reason, you have to kind of ask for it with electric cars here, although the newer ones are having that capability. Another cool thing was this was a son of a cousin who lived in Oslo and mostly could get to work by walking or bus or whatever, but occasionally he needed a car to go visit the family or take a road trip. And they had a car share system where, he was a member, so he could pick whatever size car he needed for that application. And I wonder, is that something we could do here? So one thing that's happening in Norway, also parts of Europe, is the Tesla supercharger network. We heard Jannike said it's very developed. It's well maintained. It's a lot of chargers. It's to this point only for Teslas. So they started putting CCS is sort of the name for the non-Tesla plugs. So they started putting extra cables on it just a year or so ago. And in this country, fascinating. Ford, I put this up as Ford. Ford basically, I just read about it. The Blue Oval Network was basically a network of networks. So one thing that's really cool about the Tesla Supercharger, you drive up, you plug in, it recognizes you. It says, "Hey, Ford," starts charging. You don't have to swipe a card or anything. It just knows that it's you. You have an account, and starts to charge. Everybody else has to pull out a card or activate it with an app. So Ford has actually developed a very Tesla-like system where it's plug and start charging. The infrastructure protocols are there, just they're activating them. So, and then they've made it so that that works on all of the different brand charging networks. So that's kind of cool. My policy question is, should, well, one thing we've noticed with public chargers is that it's inconsistent as to whether they're maintained. I can look on PlugShare and see a note from the driver that says, unit number 1 or 2 is down. That was 3 weeks ago. It's still down. Not great. So that something needs to happen to urge the business models sort of have something to do with that, but I don't know what it is that needs to be improved. I'm talking mostly about the non-Tesla network. And enable that plug and charge feature. It's just annoying if you have to fiddle to activate the charger. So this would just be easy. The chargers it's worked really well for me is where I have a touchless card. You just hold it up to the machine and start. I don't have to press my app or anything like that. So those are just some observations. Now this is another Ford-related thing that just was announced a month or so ago, that Ford electric cars will have access to Tesla superchargers, and initially they'll have to have an adapter because the plugs aren't compatible. But in this article, it said that Ford's built next year will have a Tesla connector. So interesting. And then this is my obsession with little mini minivans. Because I just look at it as like, oh, it's all in one vehicle. It could be cargo, it could be passenger, it could be, camping maybe. But the larger article was also impressed about e-vans, gain momentum, the electric e-transit or transit. A lot of big vans are starting to hit the road, but these little guys are kind of getting left behind. And I would love to see more of those hit the road, and more modest-sized trucks. So another friend here, Lawrence, who's the president here at the Grange, was in LA recently, and he used Lyft to get around. And he said most of them were electric. I don't, Lyft, Uber. So Lyft announced last year that they were giving monthly incentives to drivers if they drove electric. And they have these larger goals of 100% electric by 2030. So, is that part of the solution? How many of you have used a Lyft? Yeah, okay. I think I might have, I don't know. Okay, so this is something down in Palo Alto, Actera. They have something called concierge. If you have questions about leasing, incentives, etc., you can call them and get some help. And I realized in helping Maryland with this process, scanning documents, etc., it's like this takes a little assistance. So if there's something here in Sebastopol or Sonoma Power somewhere that could help people navigate these process of getting an electric vehicle and accessing all the incentives that they can. And I want to shout out to North Bay Electric Auto Association. Any of these topics, they have a monthly meeting. Their next meeting is Saturday, is that right? It'll be a Zoom-based one. And they get deep into a lot of these topics because each of these topics can go a lot of directions. There's a lot of advancements in the technology, et cetera. So yeah, go to the website. You can access the Zoom that way. And there's also some recordings of past meetings there that are rich with information. Oh, so racing to get done. So yeah, this is the end. We're going to start again in the fall. But one weird question I have is: anybody here have solar panels they need to recycle? They'll have a left field, right? The reason I ask is because the Zero Waste Sonoma has a pilot program to recycle solar panels, and anyway, nobody does, so that's fine. It's sort of like, is there a need for it? It's a pilot. And thank you. So, there's still a few of you left. We can ask a couple questions.
So, when a hybrid is operated electrically, is it environmentally friendly as we do?
When a hybrid is operating electrically, is it as environmentally friendly as an electric, all electric? Probably. It's an all electric mode, yeah. Sure. Yes, sir.
I just want to make a comment that, for me at least, the reason to go with an EV is to reduce emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. And the reality is not all EVs are the same in this regard. So there's a website called carboncounter.com. Have you heard of that?
Somebody write this down. Carboncounter.com.
Yeah. It's a little bit dated now. It's a couple of years old, but it lists all the whole range of EVs, plug-in hybrids, and ICE vehicles. Puts them in a graph, and you can determine which vehicle is the most efficient in terms of reduction of greenhouse gases. The fact of the matter is, there are a number of EVs that are worse than some plug-in hybrids in terms of the life cycle. We're looking at the life cycle of the vehicle.
What makes them worse?
Because of how big the batteries are and the manufacturing process that created so many emissions during the manufacturing of the vehicle. It therefore is, over the lifetime of that vehicle, it produces more emissions than, say, a plug-in.
So definitely something to keep an eye on. And one thing in putting all this together, there's so many topics I left out, but the one is also highlighting that something we're not aware of is as the tires wear out, it creates all this dust and crumb rubber dust. And that electric cars are typically heavier, so they wear out more. They're not the only guilty party, but all cars do that. And so there's some efforts to make better quality tires, et cetera. So, but to your point, I totally agree. There's, that's definitely something to keep an eye on, and which is sort of my, aghast at why GM is focusing on, making a big truck, only. No, they're not only, they're going to make another car instead of the Bolt, but yeah, something to keep an eye on and be aware of, definitely.
Carboncounter.com.
So, my question is, we don't own an EV, I'm thinking about it, but what comes first in terms of like a charger or your car, because you can trickle charge it using the 110. But if you're thinking about purchasing one of these, do you really have to think, I need to put in a charging station before I buy this car?
No, I mean, there's a number of folks that attend the auto association that have been living on the 110 charger years now. If you only had a 110 charger, this Bolt would take 2 days to charge up from 0 to full. But that's 200 plus miles. So if you charge, you could, in other words, you could live with your 110 for a while. You might get tired of it taking that long, or maybe you're not driving that much and it's just fine. And then you could plan for your charger. I don't think the harder part is if you don't have off-street parking. That's a challenge still. And I've committed some efforts on that, where they're putting chargers on telephone poles and things like that. Because technically you can't run a cord over the sidewalk out in front of your house. You're not supposed to. So that's a bigger challenge than.
And if you're not driving a whole lot, like if you're normal, maybe drive 15 to 30 miles a day, like the one time charger was great. My groceries so just using that. And when she comes up to visit me, sometimes we'll plug in my little charger to top it off. So when she's working in the city, you just plugs it in, it gets up in the gas, and it just pops off.
One more question, and then we'll. You had a question earlier, but when Jannike was talking, did you get it? No, you were there. You talked her. One more.
County offers some stipends, my own panels on the list. Consider expanding them and
you can now. So the county offers financing. Sky pays. It's basically you repay it through the property taxes, but you can get it, and it's really easy to qualify. So you could. They'll do the charger, part of your house, not the car, but the charger. But also I didn't drill down and stay too long, but there's generally incentives or rebates available that will cover this whole cost. So I don't know why you do it through Sky actually.
Driving their cars
PG&E won't. So they'll figure out a way. I mean, that's part of the reason that the solar rates changed this spring. It's less attractive to go solar now than it was before April. And the now rate structure encourage you to have a battery. So because they don't fully compensate you for anything you send back to the grid. So there'll be strategies now. If you're going to put solar on your home now, going forward, having a car to dump the energy into the battery during the day, you want to use as much on site as opposed to exporting it to the grid. So, your question about PG&E not getting enough money, all the utilities are sort of one like that. It's a new world, but as we put more renewable energy on the grid, we do need to utilize these batteries to store some of that. Use of that. So it's interesting, exciting. Thank you all for coming.
The other thing I like about this car is that it's really fun to drive. It has wicked pickup and handles like a little go-kart, and you can park it in San Francisco really easily. So it's just a joy to drive.